Hi, welcome to another episode of Port Charles Chat. I'm Mom.
And I'm Brandon.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
Yes, Brandon, how are you doing?
Mom, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine, Brandon. Just so everyone knows that we're talking about the week of June 16th through 20th, and the day of the recording of this is on June 22nd. All right, we're talking about four main topics today. You ready to begin, Brandon?
I am, are you?
All righty. And so for me, these are the four things that kind of stood out the most for the things that happened this week. First of all, let's talk about Sidwell and Sonny. Sidwell and Sonny met toward the end of the week, I believe Thursday, I believe. And Sidwell indicated that he still wants the peers from Sonny. Sonny actually went to Sidwell's house and they argued kind of Sunny-ish arguing back and forth for a little bit about the peers. Sunny still really doesn't understand why Sidwell wants the peers, but Sidwell says that it will appear as though he has gotten rid of, per se, the corruption in the town, and he's not really worried about what the people of Port Charles thinks. In regards to measures C or 3 or whatever. But anyway, and so he just wants the peers. Sonny does not want to get rid of his peers. However, he was considering selling them at some point. And so basically, it's more the back and forth between both of them that occurred during that time period. What was more interesting is what happened at the end, Brandon. Once Sonny left, Sidwell had a conversation with the judge in Michael's case, and we find out that Sidwell has paid off the judge, and that is the reason why the judge favored in the way she did during the court case. Were you surprised to hear this, Brandon?
Yeah, I was definitely surprised to find out about this, especially given that I presume Sidwell, had the Judge Heron sway everything in favor of Michael. So the question is, will that come at some price to Sonny, or perhaps are they going to even make this go through Natalia? I mean, since they had that whole lingering thing off to the side, I don't know. I'm quite curious to see where that goes, and it makes me wonder how would the judge have ruled if it wasn't for this? Because I don't see any way that Will per se would have gotten the kids.
Yeah, but I think my thought is that the judge may have given Willow some visitation rights initially. So you're right. I'm not sure if the judge, whoever it was, would have gone either way with them, but I have a feeling that visitation rights probably would have come into play much quicker than it is right now for than either side. So I was surprised by this, and so it will be interesting to see what Sidwell really has planned for Sonny, or for Port Charles, or even for Michael for this matter. Not quite sure where he's leading to, so this gives a storyline for us to watch later, Brandon.
Yeah, it definitely does. And it makes me all wonder, since Drew and Sidwell were previously working together, Drew had any knowledge of this.
Yeah, and I thought about that too, because I wondered whether or not that if if Drew is actually working with Sidwell at some point, whether or not loosely or not, because his ultimate goal is really just to get Willow, and so the children kind of stand in his way. Just my thought. And so, which leads me into the next category or next subject of Willow and Drew. And so we learned this week that Drew really wants to marry Willow, which I know is not a surprise, but he at least verbalizes this to her in some sort of an action that he wants to take place pretty soon, so that in hopes that she can get custody of her children. In essence, he just really wants to marry Willow. And of course, Nina's not too happy at all. But that is what we're kind of led for Willow and Drew. Willow is still very concerned about her children, and she's doing everything she can to see them without, I should say, breaking the law, meaning that she met with her mother and hopes to see them while they were at swim practice, that type of thing. So it'll be interesting to see what Drew really wants to do with Willow, and how he plans to proceed further. Your thoughts about them?
Yeah, I mean, Will definitely seems very fragile right now at best, and I don't really know where Drew's heading. I mean, at first we saw at the end of last week where he's trying to break up with Willow to save Willow, but we all knew that wasn't going to last. That didn't even last, I think, until the end of the episode. So I mean, now Drew's doubling down. It's like, oh well, now we need to go get married, and I'll take you the kids back. And the fact that Martin said that he was not even fully comfortable with this plan, I think says something.
Yeah, and the fact that Drew gave up on Rick also. Drew has moved on to Martin as a possible attorney, even or attorney at this point, and Martin's not quite happy with the way things are going, and even Rick, for that matter, was not happy with the way things kind of ended, and so. Like so once more, it'll be interesting to see what Drew decides to do. My next topic that I want to talk about is Elizabeth and Christina. And this I was kind of looking forward to. Elizabeth calls Christina over to her house, and she just lets it known that she is aware that Christina is the one who cut the brakes on Rick's car, accident or not. She still did it, and so that was kind of a fun to me, a fun scene to watch because Christina had it coming, and I like the way Elizabeth handled herself. Your thoughts about Christina and Elizabeth?
I'm really glad that we have a strong Elizabeth back, and I like that she truly was not providing any sort of like sympathy or like understanding. It's like, oh well, well, you know what? I know you weren't trying to kill me, so I'll forgive it. I like that it truly was straight to the point, and even with providing Christina that grace, that it was with the understanding of a, I'm only doing this for Lucky, but Lucky's not here.
Yeah, and even when Rick came to Elizabeth's house, Elizabeth did not tell Rick, or at least at this point in time, what just happened. She just kind of let him in while Christina left out. So that was interesting to watch. But I do like that they have already had their confrontation, and then it goes on to say that now that everyone knows, what are we going to do with this information? So we'll see who reacts to it later. The last storyline that I want to talk about is Kai, Drew, and Trina. And for me, this normally I don't talk about Kai and Trina. I do, but in the sense of for storyline purposes, they actually had a true storyline this week. Kai found out that he is not able to play football again, which devastated him. And then, but Drew, on the other hand, has now offered Kai an internship so that he can work for Drew while he's just kind of figuring things out during the summer. Um, and so Trina, of course, is not happy. She doesn't really want him to work for Drew, but Kai is really thinking about it, and so we'll see how it goes. What were your thoughts, Brandon, when you heard about this internship perspective?
I mean, are we really surprised? I mean, I don't really know anything when it comes to Drew anymore, especially since, I mean, to me, these soap operas, as with any media, yeah, you can listen to the lovely background music to hear if it's suspenseful or peaceful, and most times with Drew, it's very suspenseful and like untrustworthy, but with Kai, it was like upbeat, inspirational. So I don't know, maybe this is telling us that Drew's actually going to, you know, I guess, do good. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I don't know if we should trust Drew at this point.
No, and even for the documentary that Kai was taping, Drew said it could be dropped, which I found rather interesting. Were you surprised that Drew said that he could drop this?
Well, I guess that means no more Josh the Camera Guy, but I mean, that being said, I can see Drew dropping it, but I don't think he's going to get rid of the footage anytime soon. I think that oh, well, a thought is that if Curtis tries to ever, yeah, outdo Drew, he could always publish parts of the documentary, or leak it, or have Aurora do something to show that Curtis, tear Curtis and Kai apart.
Yeah, very true. Now, I will say this is a week for me for General Hospital where we saw bits and pieces of just about everything. So it wasn't a cohesive whole. And so I just chose four storylines that stood out because, as I mentioned with Sidwell, I believe he was only on for one day this week. And so, but what he did was significant. So I tried to pick and choose some things that stood out to me. On the just on the minor note, Jocelyn was actually working for the professor again, and so we were brought that the professor has been brought up again. We still don't know what he's doing per se, but Emma really wants to do everything she can to work with him. I'm assuming to let the public know whatever it is he's doing wrong, but at this point in time, we're just kind of in the dark about the professor. Brandon, what did I leave any storylines out?
No, I mean, I think that was largely it. Again, I'm not saying that this week was slow or not interesting, because, I mean, it definitely was interesting, but there was so much that happened, but yet I don't fully remember if there was any really cohesive storyline.
Yep, I agree with you totally. All right, so let's talk about the performer of the week. Because as I mentioned, that it was just kind of this and that throughout the week. I had a hard time picking a performer of the week, so I kind of went for the obvious this one. I went for Sidwell, just because he provided some interest to me because he was kind of tying up some loose ends and answering the questions for me in regards to the judge. Because I believe I mentioned last week also, I wondered why no one bribed the judge. So he did answer that question. And then Kai, for me, is another a performer of the weekend. He is not one I normally say as a performer. I know, shocking, isn't it? But he actually had a storyline this week that was worthy of some little bit. Anyway, so between he and Trina, I will give it to Kai and not Trina this week. All right, Brandon, who are your performers of the week?
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, wow. And I'm going to say for me, my first one I'm going to say is Elizabeth.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
mean, to me, I thought that this was the strongest that we have, I mean, truly seen her. Although it's weird to say that it takes lucky leaving for her to like be able to shine like this. And but yeah, I think for whatever it's worth, lucky being there helped her rebuild her independence after the whole thing where because she wasn't really active as much after Finn left. So now being able to see her in this prominent light, I like it. I'm excited to see this, especially if she's going to like even stand up to Rick's interference. I'm sure that will happen as Christina tries to push them together. Um, and and yeah, I mean, there's some other, like I said, key players that I liked throughout the week, but the other one I'll use for my performer is actually Emma.
Okay, I really like Emma, so I agree with you there also. All right, and we'd love to hear what you guys think who the performers of the week were. All right. As for amusing scenes, for me, Tracy and Martin, because you know I love Tracy and I love Martin, so I think together they're just comical. So watching Tracy and Martin together, I thought was rather amusing. And then you know, even though Liz and Christina had a tense conversation, they amused me, and so for me, they were kind of my amusing scenes of the week. All right, Brandon, who were your amusing? What were your amusing scenes?
Ooh. Yeah, I definitely saw that there were some interesting ones. I was amused with the conversation between Ava and Nina as they were discussing the possibilities of Drew this, Drew that, and so I just thought that was kind of amusing. And yeah, I mean, alongside the ones that you said, and even some of the banter between Gio and Emma, I remember them saying something along the lines of people being afraid that Gio is going to what do you say, like become a criminal and do all this and that, and Emma's like, yeah, but you can't commit to anything. You can't even join this baseball team.
Yeah, yes, yeah. So they did have cutesy scenes this week. All right, then as for touching scenes, I think at this point in time, Willow and anyone right now seems to be a touching scene because she is pining for her children. So Willow to me kind of provided some of the touching scenes. But then I want to say Kai and Trina had intense conversations this week. And so I will give them a touching scene award also. And then Dante and Rocco, they had a nice little scene in regards to baseball. And so I like that. And then Sunny came in also. And so I like that scene that they had together. All right, Brandon, what about you?
Ooh, yeah, touching scenes. Yeah, I mean, I definitely would agree with the ones that you've mentioned, and I'd say that Sunny and Geo had a sort of interesting one. It actually Sunny and everyone related to the baseball team. Um, I thought that was. I think that's both heartwarming and amusing. Especially for amusing the tense conversation, so to speak. He went to speak to Anna. They had an intense conversation. Like, this is your day of reckoning, and you're going to be taken down. And then he was with ADA Turner, who apparently can't throw a baseball because she had a convoluted backstory about her mom and her perfect teeth. And so, I mean, I just and then Sunny and Geo. So, I mean, they were actually heartwarming conversations, but more amusing than that. So I'm gonna have to mark those.
All right, those are excellent examples, Brandon. Because I forgot about Sunny, and I know with the scene, of course, Dante and Rocco, but the other ones are very amusing too. All right, as for fast forward scenes this week, I really didn't have any because they're just kind of hit and miss. So I ended up watching all of General Hospital without fast forwarding. Brandon, did you have any fast forwarding scenes?
No, no.
All righty. And as for, so I'm going to go, I'm adding a new one for you. It's in a surprising scene. And for me, it was really Sidwell bribing the judge. And so that one to me kind of came out of nowhere. And so I will give that credit for surprising scene of the week. Brandon, besides that one, did you have any other surprising scenes of the week?
Actually, I did have one that I almost forgot was this week.
Oh, what is that?
Lulu giving a full apology to Geo.
Oh, that was very surprising. That is correct. Yes, she did apologize. And Lulu was apologizing to quite a few people this week.
Yeah, and then not only that, for one for Geo, she was actually like somewhat defending Brooklyn.
Yeah, she was. Well, I guess after being slapped by Brooklyn, she had to think about things that she'd done because that happened this week too. Um, so yes, that is very true. I was surprised that she actually did go around and she did apologize to Gio and try to explain just a little bit about why Brooklyn may have done what she did.
Yeah, and I think that actually leads into one more surprising thing that I just now remembered.
And what is that?
Brooklyn's whole "I'm going to get revenge on Lulu" by digging up some interesting information about certain no longer around individual.
Brandon, I'm glad you mentioned that. How could I forget about Brit? But yes, that was very intriguing, and I was very surprised. Of course, I read online that Brit was coming back with the actress who plays Brit, so I don't know what character she'll play when she pops back in. But I was very surprised to see that come out at the end. I believe it was Monday's episode to see that kind of pop in. So that will be very intriguing to see how they plan to pursue that particular storyline.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. I mean, I saw bits and pieces of Brit, yeah, long before I started regularly watching, but yeah, when I saw that, I was like, oh, oh. So I'm curious as to when the actress comes back, if she will be playing Brit, who is supposedly no longer around, unless she's uh, somehow survived the hook, like Jason survived that was it, the boulder falling on him, or if there will be, or if the actress would be playing someone that just looks like Brit.
Yeah, or maybe there'll be flashback scenes. So who knows? We will say that Liesel has not been on for quite a while. So what if Liesel has been with Britt? Just a thought in itself.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Fran.
Okay. I want to make sure I remember this. Was the last time we saw Lisa when she was with Drew for the Ice Princess thing?
I cannot remember the last time we saw Liesel. I think she came back, but did she come? She came back for something. I can't remember what. Um, we'll have to look that up because I could be wrong. Guys in the audience, let us know when was Liesel last seen? Brandon's trying to look it up real quick, but were you able to find it?
Okay, so the last time we saw her was the end of 2023.
Oh, she's been gone a year.
Huh. So I'm curious. Yeah. So that's definitely interesting. So yeah, I definitely think that this is quite interesting, and I'm curious as to where this will all go.
Yeah, same here. Same here. All right. And I didn't have anyone to welcome back this week. Brandon, did you have anyone to welcome back?
To the best of my knowledge, no welcome backs.
All righty. And so, of course, of the where did they go? Once more, Ned and Olivia have disappeared. They do it on a regular basis, so they're gone again. Um, and then, as for goodbyes, I don't think anyone left off the show this week, to the best of my knowledge. Brandon, anything?
Not to my knowledge.
All right. As for next week, I'm looking forward to Sidwell and Natalia because I want to see them blend together again. Now that you brought up Brit, I cannot wait to see what happens with Brit and with, or the Brit character, I should say, and Brooklyn, or to see what Brooklyn's plans to do. So those are the kind of storylines that I'm looking forward to. Brandon, what are you looking forward to for next week?
I'm looking forward to seeing what ends up happening with Nina in terms of this whole situation. She's certainly stuck in a corner, and I'm curious as to who she may or may not find allies with, because everyone has said that Drew needs to be taken down, but who's going to do it and in which manner? And I'd love for it to be Willow, but I I don't know with Willow right now.
I don't know. I kind of want to be surprised with who's going to take down Drew. Not that we're saying that he is leaving. It's just, just the thought. So that'll be interesting to see. All right. And we thank everybody for watching today. We can't wait to hear what kind of comments that you guys have to make. And we look forward to speaking with you next week. All right, everybody. Have a great day.
We'll see you next time.
All right. Bye bye.